Welcome to Engaged Company Culture, a podcast directed at you, helping you to stop the employee exodus in your organization. This podcast has 3 different types of episodes. First, you have tips, tricks, observations, stories, research from me, Dr. Catherine Weiberg of Profitable Alignment. Second, interviews with other consultants, other coaches who are here to serve you so you can learn other tips and tricks to engaging your employees, to stop the employee exodus, to consciously create and continue a company culture where people want to be and where they encourage other people to come to work and to become your customers. Third, I interview other business leaders who have engaged company cultures and want to share their stories. You might learn from them how they have applied principles of company culture to increase their employee retention, increase their profits, increase their productivity, and increase everyone's job satisfaction. Thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. In today's episode, I get to interview Michele Risa, who is the CEO and founder of Collaborative Solutions, Inc. For over 30 years, Michele has worked with thought leaders and influencers to help them turn the great resignation into the great retention. Build a culture that eats strategy for breakfast. I love that phrase. Starting with the most valuable asset, people. She's an award-winning co-author of Conscious Entrepreneurs, a radical approach to purpose, passion, and profit. Michele has been a TV producer since 1998. She has conducted meditation at the United Nations. She was formerly president of the Manhattan Holistic Chamber of Commerce. A global speaker, Michele has presented at the World Economic Forum, Viacom, Forbes, Barclays, United Healthcare, and TEDx in Manhattan, including a 6-month program at the New York Stock Exchange, to name a few. Michele, you have a wonderful background. Welcome and thank you for being part of the Engaged Company Culture podcast today.
Happy to be with you, Catherine. Happy to be with you.
I would love to hear how you got to where you are today, your path. You've talked about 30 years of working with thought leaders and all of this fantastic experience. What brought you to today?
A zigzag. I mean, I don't believe anybody's life is a straight projection of anything. And hopefully, we learn from them. And let me be very transparent and say, on the surface, it sounds lovely and impressive. And in 2019, I guess it was 18, I basically said to my soul, to me, I want to live a magnificent life and this ain't it. So I wasn't impressed with any of that. And it then blessed me with cancer after that. And we all get different wake-up calls. And I think when we're brought to our knees, we have the wonderful ability to re-examine and to make new choices and evaluate things and appreciate. So I would say one of the greatest gifts is appreciating life and just appreciating how much we take for granted. The ability to walk, the ability to move, the ability to swallow and breathe. I mean, you get the idea. So that is what I do, actually. I think that's my secret sauce at this point in my life, Catherine, to really appreciate what is going on in life, learn from it and apply it and improve. I think that's the secret sauce: gratitude and learning, a passion for learning.
That is wonderful. Thank you, Michele. I find it fascinating that you said you were blessed with cancer and that it was about the same time you wanted to live a magnificent life. I'd love to hear more about how cancer was a blessing. And I also want to know if you are living a magnificent life now.
I absolutely am. I absolutely am. And part of that is, Catherine, making the commitment to be responsible for your life. Too many of us blame, shame everything around us, whether it be a partner, it be our children, our parents, the government, fill in the blank, a political figure, a company. I think there's much to be said if we take ownership and responsibility for our own life. I heard myself say that's what I wanted, a magnificent life. And so on an ongoing basis, I ask myself, am I? And if I'm not, how can I do that better? And then there is no one size fits all. So it's even silly to say what it is for me. The beauty of it is to discover it yourself. It is never the what, it's the how.
I love that you use the phrase, we're blessed with so many catastrophes, because you are seeing every catastrophe as an opportunity to then have an individual live his or her own magnificent life as responding to an opportunity. I love that. Actually, one of my soapboxes is to recognize the value of every individual job, every individual role, and every individual person. And if you struggle to recognize the value in that individual or that role or that job, consider what it would be like if that were not done. People notice when it's not done. People take for granted so easily when things are done, but they really notice when it's not done. And it always creates an opportunity for gratitude. Sometimes it creates a recognition. I love that you said it's how something is done. Mm-hmm. It's not the what, it's the how. It's how do you connect with yourself, with your abilities, with what you provide to the world or the organization or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. And might I just offer a tip here, instead of only looking at what doesn't work, right? As it is easier to notice when it's not working, but we have the ability to acknowledge when it is.
Yes.
Right. And we all appreciate, and it doesn't have to be overdone. It could be as simple as a thank you. Mm-hmm. It's not a big deal. Mm-hmm. And it again tells us who we are, right?
Yes.
If I'm miserable inside, then I look out of my eyes and find where misery rests and resides, excuse me. But I can change what I see as I walk down the street based on my inner environment. And once again, that's the responsibility of that inner environment. And I think more and more of us know it's to our detriment to not take responsibility, because it determines how we see the world and how we look at the world, interpret it, and then how we respond to it versus react to it. So I'll say thank God for COVID, right? Another blessing. Many of us learned, hey, we might really be interconnected, right? We breathe on each other, and wow, we might be impacting each other's life and death. So yeah, might we realize that if I improve my energy and how I walk through the world, it uplifts everybody.
Absolutely.
Right? Again, that's the am I doing enough? Is like, stop, whatever you do. And it took me a while to learn this too, Catherine. It's like, there's so much to do. And people would say, just do, what you're doing. And I'd go, and another reminder, another tip. No, it really doesn't require the Mount Everest climb, right? It really is helping.
One of the things that I talk about with organizations is appreciative intelligence and appreciative inquiry, which is recognizing what you have and making it bigger. And you are taking that into everyday life, recognizing the opportunities that you have, your personal aspiration to always be living a magnificent life, the strengths that you bring to it, and then the results that you create, all by appreciating what is right there in front of you and part of who you are.
Yeah. I mean, let me also say, and I live in Manhattan, right, in New York, you know, there are many people who would go, oh my God, I can never live there. And I said, good, because we've got a whole bunch already. You know, you don't need to come. But I say that as a joke, but seriously, Catherine, I feel blessed. I know we wanted to talk about what we can do in the corporate culture.
You do have a tendency to bring this perspective to corporate environments, to corporate culture. I love one of the things that you said, eats strategy for breakfast. I'd like to hear a little bit more about that phrase.
Well, because we're always in the alpha. We're also in the doing. We're strategizing. We're competing. That's, again, the old paradigm, right? Whoever hasn't yet woken up to the fact that people are the greatest asset. Yeah, it used to be equipment and buildings. Got it. You know, that's past. That's past. We now know the power of having good talent and people at our business. So without them, really, what do we have? I don't care how much automation you offer, right? I mean, creativity. I mean, who creates? We do. So it's really about learning how to crack the the code of human potential. We haven't, as a species, we haven't learned to do that. Are we brilliant at automating and innovating? Sure. But have we really learned how to build trust and have people feel that they belong or heard? As Dalai Lama says, give the gift of being heard. I teach that every month with healing conversations, and I'll be doing that in corporate world as well. We don't need to change minds, which is what we frequently are trying to do. I'll impose what I believe is right on you. Who does that work for? Nobody, right? We walk away going, ooh, right? I'm right, you're wrong, right? And so, yeah, it is learning, and that is what I do to help from the very top to the very bottom. We're all playing a role. Now, no doubt, are we all doing the how very well? No, but that's another skill we haven't learned very well, right? Some of us with children learn a little bit better, right? How to model that, right? And how to build trust, right? And how to be vulnerable. But that is required in corporations as well. Risky, if we're egocentric, not so comfortable, which is actually, I'll just end this answer by saying, part of what I show is and suggest and help people learn is to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. If I'm only comfortable here, with these kinds of people, this kind of way of doing things, I travel and I only go to McDonald's and, whatever your, ooh, I'm not going to eat that, whatever your limit is, life has to conform to this very narrow spot, to be okay. I had a good day. When you broaden that to your comfort zone, right? To embrace what's uncomfortable. Wow, lots of things can happen. I'm still good. That's also a skill that I help people practice.
I absolutely love it. How do you bring that into the corporations and their culture?
Everything is interactive. Everything, I mean, there's no one size fits all. I mean, that's really silly, of course, as we know. So there's no, here's what I do. But I'm authentic. I'm certainly wise. Thank God. I'm old. Amen. I wouldn't go back to yesterday because I learned a whole lot since then. And again, Catherine, you have to trust and resonate with your guides. And let me actually say that it's a time, where we need people who have experienced this. I've done this rodeo before, and we need people who have that experience, and then can, help you just, not that I'm going to impose what I know, but I know how to help you discover it for yourself.
Right.
Right. And there is no substitute for that. Again, I'll use children as a example, right? Yes, as parents, we can, tell you of our experiences, but at the end of the day, it's helping them discover it in their own lives. And so, we're doing that with companies and each other. And I will say it's recognizing we were never meant to do it alone, right? And we were never meant to go it alone. And it's a lot more fun, when again, you find your tribe. I'm not suggesting you work with people with whom you're not resonating, but once you say, this resonates with me, if any of what I'm saying here resonates with people, then it would be, let me speak to her. Let me see if there's something she can offer me that would be beneficial. Right. So it's a time of collaboration. And the time of the Lone Ranger is over.
Absolutely.
Oh, as a child, I loved that TV show.
Well, and even the Lone Ranger had Tonto. The Lone Ranger was not alone. One of my favorite things you mentioned, you don't go it alone. This is a time of collaboration. Every self-made person got there with a team, whether it was a mentor. In fact, you can guarantee that there was a mentor somewhere that they followed, either the person's example from a distance or from close up. People that maybe the person employed or reached out to say, I really struggle with this, help me. And every self-made person is not self-made. We can't do it alone.
And as we discover, as I watched The First Ladies, so it was a movie about Michelle Obama and, oh goodness, I'm forgetting, Eleanor Roosevelt. And do you remember who the third lady was? She was lovely, played by Michelle Pfeiffer. I'm blanking on Ford.
There
Betty
Ford.
No, oh my goodness. Right? These three women certainly contributed to their husband's success. So that's a wonderful movie example of just that.
Absolutely. And thank you for sharing that. I love that. I am all about complementary teams. You mentioned your tribe. You've now mentioned first ladies, so that you have that partnership of in this case, a man and a woman married, and how did they complement each other and how did they help each other reach new heights? But you talk about your tribe, it's resonating. It's not saying you and I are exactly the same. It's saying, there's something there that maybe I can gain, or maybe there's something there that I can give. Your tribe does not have to be homogeneous. Your tribe is, how are you going to build together? And I believe it's best if it's heterogeneous, if you have true diversity, internal, external, to really build that up with the goal of growth and support. And
yeah. I mean, it's no longer, I mean, there's been an old definition of DEI, right? Diversity and inclusion. And it's, no, we don't want to say how many women or how many Black or whatever you're indigenous or whatever you're doing here, or Latinas or Latinos. If you don't have different points of view, you're missing it. If everyone thinks the same and sees a problem from one perspective, I would say whatever your solution is less complete than it otherwise could be, because you're all seeing it from only one place. And in case someone's saying, no, really, think about any crime show that you've seen on TV, and the detective doesn't go to one person or two who are thinking exactly the same. The investigator knows to go to a wide swath of people, right, and ask them all, what did you see? What do you know? Right? Because he or she knows the more diverse, the more likely he or she will get the information he needs to solve the crime and have the proper answer, if that's the right word, to the problem. So yeah. So the old definition of checking the box and counting bodies is silly.
I
Right?
agree.
It won't accomplish it. The more diverse points of view, the better.
I completely.
Many of us struggle with differences.
Yes.
Threatened by it.
Challenging our own selves and our own perceptions.
Fearful of it, and as long as we have that fear, right, we will demonize the difference. So once again, it's our responsibility to wake up as humans and redefine what family means. I'm blessed with a very small family. So thank God, as a result, I've created a huge, non-biological family. Right?
I do the same.
Right? And it's because I cringe sometimes when people say, oh yes, I care about leaving this planet to my grandchildren. And I say, that's nice. But what about everybody else's grandchildren? This is not just about your grandchildren. Right? It's all children. And I hope whatever I do to wake people up and get comfortable. Again, here's the get comfortable with the uncomfortable. You look much different than I, and yet, wow, could you be in my family? And the answer is, yeah. And when that happens, what a different world you live in.
Well, and you even consider families themselves. I grew up with one sibling, but I adopted others, quote unquote. It was by choice. And then I have children, and my husband has siblings, and they have children. But even in my family of me, my husband, and our children, they are diverse in their perspectives and in their personalities. You hear so many companies that say they want to have a family culture, or they do have a family culture. And it's enjoyable to really ask them what that means, because in my family, I have 3 children, and they have such diverse views that I learn from them all the time. And I will go to them and say, okay, I need an opinion on this because I was looking at it this way. And they'll give me something completely different. When we expand that to an organization and look at, okay, if our children can be so different, let's make sure our organization is different. Let's get those perspectives. And yes, families argue. You can have disagreements in an organization, but how are you going to work through those? I think that's also where your healing conversations come in, is how are you going to work through them? And correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, we actually don't have many disagreements because we're not looking to agree. We're just not.
I like that.
Just not. So can you like vanilla and can I like chocolate? And is that okay? Do I have to be threatened? Do I have to be threatened by your liking vanilla? Do I have to make you wrong and tell you how wonderful chocolate is? And whatever else I can say about chocolate.
Absolutely.
No, I'm picking a benign example because, right, but it really is true with anything. Can I just be comfortable with diversity? You like vanilla, I like chocolate, and I appreciate, we create the fear that you will force me to like vanilla, and take my rights away about chocolate. But again, right, that's also part of the growing and expanding and coexisting.
Right.
That's
fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you. I love that. The agree to disagree, agree to appreciate it. Somebody can have a different opinion, and that's okay. And somebody can have a completely different experience, and that's okay. And can you add to that experience or learn from it?
Right. But, and let me also say, I've been a mediator in the New York City court systems, learning how to reach agreement. I appreciate, I took vanilla chocolate ice cream. So, people are, but, you're my neighbor and you're making noise and I want you to be quiet, and what's the compromise there? Right. So I appreciate it's not always that simple. So let's not be too silly. But there is and are certainly a talent, and that has to be put into cultures, how we work through, very different approaches to things. However, I will just say the one size that does fit all is that when we approach it with respect, right, and we can take responsibility for our own fears, right? There's much we can do to find many wonderful solutions that absolutely work for both of us.
Oh, thank you so much. Michele, if somebody who has been listening to this or viewing this podcast wants to reach out to you, what is the best way for that organization or individual to reach you?
Okay. LinkedIn is probably one of the best. Michele Risa, it's MiCheleRisa. Michele Risa is my name. And if you spell it that way, I don't believe there's any other but me. So please, I'd love to connect with you via LinkedIn. And you'll find, when you look for my contact information, you'll see the website and the email, and be happy to just explore. And again, if any of this resonated, let's explore further. That's all it is. And if I can help or in any way, that's the reason I'm on the planet.
Perfect. Oh, thank you so much, Michele. This has been an enjoyable conversation for me, and I appreciate you spending the time and sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and acknowledging it and sharing it with us. Is there anything that you would like that you'd like to end with specifically, that you want people to remember from this conversation? Even though it wasn't bulleted points, the tips I think were many. I hope, about collaboration versus going it alone and get an expert with experience, or getting out of your comfort zone and learning to get comfortable with the uncomfortable. Maybe to see your family with a different definition, and recognizing we truly are in this together. I guess I'm going to say, because it's been frightening for a lot of people, I'll end on this note. Just as we started, when I said, I had the opportunity or the blessing to get cancer. That is my belief, meaning that we are blessed with a world that responds to us. And as I said, you'll see it when you believe it. Means you need to believe it first in order to then see it. That many are frightened by all of the crises and catastrophes, is to say to everyone, all of these wonderful challenges are opportunities for us. Many of them are not born this year, last year, the last 5 years. The racial issues, the climate issues, immigration issues, health issues. They're none of, income inequality, gender inequality. None of them are new. They're all, I'm sorry to say, but happy to say, so here I go with the paradoxes. They're coming to the surface, and with all of them coming to the surface, it's frightening. But let me be clear, they're only coming to the surface to wake us up. That we no longer deny them and say, oh, somebody else has to take care of it.
right? It's coming to us. Maybe you've gotten flooded recently with storms, or you've gone through fires that have impacted you, or some part of climate. Or you've been sick and you've gone through the health system and seen it's lacking. And let me just say, I got them to change the way people are discharged and how information is distributed, because I got so much misinformation when I left the hospital. So yeah, it's happening for us to see and finally decide, here's what I want to do about it, and not wait for anyone else, right? And join others. There's so many people who do it, whether it be gun control, right? The children who were killed in schools, they're so active. So much is being done. So I just want to say it's going to work out. It's already done. The good news is we all survived. And now you get to write your part in the script.
That's perfect. Thank you so much, Michele. I really appreciate your time today.
You're very welcome, Catherine. Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to or viewing today's Engaged Company Culture episode. I hope you have enjoyed the episode. I hope you have learned something and have something that you can apply today to engage your company culture and encourage your employees to enjoy work, looking forward to Mondays instead of only looking forward to Fridays. If you liked this episode, please share it with someone else you know. Also, like and subscribe to Engaged Company Culture anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thank you and have a wonderful day.